The judge said yes. Just one word, clear, definitive, final. My family said goodbye, not in the courtroom. Not all at once, but that's where it began. If this story is touching you, comment below where you're watching from and what time it is there. I remember the courtroom more clearly than I want to. The polished wood, the quiet authority of everything in it. Nothing there was designed for emotion. Everything was designed for order. I had believed that order protected families. That structure existed to preserve what mattered. I didn't know it could also dissolve it. The case didn't start with hostility. It started with necessity, a decision that needed approval. A legal step meant to resolve uncertainty. At least that's how it was presented. I agreed to it. That's important. I didn't fight it at first, because fighting implies danger, and I didn't believe there was any. My family trusted me. I trusted the system. That chain of trust would collapse silently. The hearings were calm, almost sterile. Everyone spoke respectfully. No accusations, no raised voices. I mistook that calm for safety. When lawyers spoke, they spoke in abstractions. Best interests, long-term stability, procedural necessity. They weren't wrong, but they weren't complete. I wanted to speak about dinners together, about inside jokes, about the way we move through life as a unit. Those things don't translate well into legal language. The judge listened, I could tell. But listening is not the same as weighing. When the ruling came, it didn't sound cruel. It sounded efficient. The judge said yes, approved, granted. There was no moment to respond, no space for disbelief. Courtrooms don't pause for grief. My lawyer squeezed my arm, as if pressure could replace words. Outside the courtroom, my phone vibrated. Messages from family members who hadn't been there, asking how it went. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The first goodbye came that night. Quiet, unspoken. We ate together like always. But everyone sensed the shift. The law had spoken. And once it speaks, everything rearranges itself around that truth. The next weeks were filled with logistics, schedules, transitions, paperwork, all neutral words. None of them captured what was happening. My family tried to stay optimistic. They said this wasn't the end, that we'd adapt, that love doesn't disappear because of paperwork. They were right, but love doesn't protect access. The judge's yes triggered a chain reaction. Rights shifted, authority moved, decisions were no longer ours. No one said goodbye formally. It happened through repetition, through absence becoming normal. First, fewer shared meals, then fewer conversations, then fewer updates. My role changed, from central to peripheral, from decision-maker to observer. I noticed it most during holidays. Traditions disrupted, plans revised. What used to be automatic required permission. Permission is a quiet form of loss. The law never said my family couldn't love me. It said love was no longer sufficient. There was no villain that made it harder. Everyone involved was polite, professional, correct. My family began adjusting, not because they wanted to, because they had to. Survival looks like compliance when resistance is futile. I tried to stay strong, to be the stable one, but stability requires ground. Mine had been reclassified. The judge never saw what happened afterward. Judges rarely do. They decide moments, not aftermaths. Months passed. The separation deepened, not dramatically, gradually. My family learned to function without me at the center. That's what hurt most. Not abandonment, adaptation. I attended fewer milestones, heard about them secondhand, sometimes too late. The law considers this success, adjustment achieved. At night, I replayed the ruling, not the words. The tone, calm, measured, as if nothing irreversible had occurred. I realized something unsettling. The judge didn't take my family. The law allowed distance. Distance did the rest. People asked if I was angry. I wasn't. Anger needs injustice. This was justice. That's what made it unbearable. I questioned myself constantly. Should I have fought harder? Spoken differently? Anticipated outcomes? But hindsight doesn't change rulings. The system didn't betray me. It did exactly what it promised. I misunderstood what that promise was. The judge said yes. A yes echoed outward, Through my family. Through my identity. Through my future. At some point, my family stopped saying goodbye, because goodbye implies return. Instead, there were pauses, longer gaps. I learned the difference between absence and loss. Absence can be temporary. Loss settles in. The hardest part was explaining it to others. They wanted drama, conflict, someone to blame. There was none. Just a decision, approved. I still see my family, sometimes, in fragments. In controlled environments, we are careful with words, careful with affection, everyone afraid of crossing invisible lines. Love becomes cautious when it's supervised. The judge never intended this outcome. I believe that. But intention doesn't reverse consequence. Eventually, the case closed, legally finished, files archived. My family remained altered. People told me to be grateful. At least I wasn't cut off completely. They didn't understand. Partial loss is not mercy. It's endurance. I don't hate the judge. I don't hate the law. I fear its indifference. Because it can say yes once. And families spend years saying goodbye. The judge said yes. My family said goodbye. And nothing in the law required anyone to look back.